All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for
All
coming.
right, I do have one of these. I printed it.
Oh, you
I think we should be called to order.
How are you?
Hello, are you
Joanna.
Johanna? Johanna, please meet everyone here. This is,
Hi.
you know, Patrick,
Michaela.
Michaela,
Liz. What's your last name, by the way? Linsky.
Linsky, thank you.
Mark?
Hey, Mark.
Hi.
And we've talked on the phone, I'm Randy.
Jan.
Dawn.
All right, we're very happy to have Joanna here. She is a tenant at Pinewoods, and she is a remarkable young woman, very, very talented. And I hope all of you had a chance to see my email because I sent you her website that she just put up today, actually.
Nice.
So thank you.
Who'd you do that through? Is it like GoDaddy or something? or-
Daddy website, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Well, I thought it
Haven't
was.
seen it yet, but I will take a look.
So if we could come to order, first order of business is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. With thanks to our very talented
Yeah, that was pretty thorough.
trust member who is
Pretty thorough coverage. You whipped that off in
overworked and
15 or 20 minutes, right?
underpaid. Yeah. But Liz, thank you very much for what you do. It's very, very helpful.
Move to accept?
Second?
Hi.
Somebody? Okay, everybody in favor. Thank you. Just to notice that the $125,000 that was appropriated to us for FY '23, FY '24 is coming, there always seem to be a year ahead. So we will be asking for funds for '24, but we did get 125 for '23. And it is in our bank account, and our total bank account at the moment is 225,000. So Patrick, you're next.
Okay. All right, well, the select board referred to the planning board two bylaws. Boy, that timing was good because they're right in front of me. And the first one on the list is residential inclusionary bylaw. So as is often the case with these sorts of things, we take work from other towns. And that sounds weird because if you write for a living or something, it's called plagiarism. But in the case of municipalities share information and share documents. It happens all the time. There's actually a town managers association that Michael gets things from. And so the first one, the residential inclusionary development bylaw, is very similar and was actually based on a bylaw that is in Lennox. And the purpose of the bylaw is very simple. If you're going to build a big development, which we defined as 10 units or more, then, you pay a little bit into a fund or you make a unit available for every 10 units for affordable housing. So it's up to the developer. They could either build a unit, which is often less attractive because if they're building luxury units, they'd be, rather than like a $250,000 payment into the trust fund, they'd be taking $1 million, $1.5 million unit off the market, and that they don't want to do that. So, in Lennox, I believe they've set the payment into the trust fund per unit that qualifies, not per unit built, per unit that qualifies as affordable at like $250,000, which we figured out adds approximately 1% to 2% of the cost of the overall development.
They're paying 250?
Yeah, so for example, if in Lennox you built 25 units or 30 units, I think, 31 units, you'd have to pay in $500,000 into the trust fund. It only kicks in if you're building 10 or more units.
Right.
And we haven't had a 10 or more unit proposal in this town, an actual special permit proposal since, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe. I mean, this doesn't cover hotels. It's only for residential. In Stockbridge, if we wanted to condition, the only place you can really build hotels in residential areas in Stockbridge is in cottage era properties. So like
Elm Court.
Or Wheatley or 37 Air Laken, which is Beckwithshire. That's what that thing was originally called. So those types of units, if they had some scale above 10 units, then this would make them pay in.
Is it at 250,000 per 10 units?
Yeah, that's how I wrote it. I'm not the decider, though. The town could opt to go with,
11, so it's going to be over 10.
so
Nobody's,
it's 11, it's one unit.
Right.
So 0 to 10, 0 to 9 is nothing, 10 to 19 is one.
10, not 11.
I think it's, it's in here.
0 to 9 and then 10 to 19 is a minimum.
Right.
That keeps us in compliance. That's the idea, right?
Yeah. So basically kind of like, we're going to talk a little later about the, relatively significant investments we need to make in our existing affordable housing, in town, let alone, if sometime in the future, there was some other opportunities like down payment assistance or, working with Habitat for Humanity, whatever. So this basically helps fund that. And it's a very simple bylaw. It's a really standard thing. And it was, so that was one, the select board unanimously referred that to the planning board. And the way that works is now the planning board legally has 65 days to review it and 21 days to rule on it. And they can, when I say review it, they get to recommend changes to the select board, which we then vote on and put on the town meeting warrant. Both these bylaws are written in a way to only require a majority approval at town meeting, whereas most zoning bylaws require 2/3 approval. So these both are just simple majorities because of some stuff that Governor Baker passed in 2020. The second one is the accessory dwelling unit bylaw. And this one is, once again, based on, not Lennox in this case, it's based on the state's ADU model bylaw. And that was written in 2017. The law was updated in 2020 that encouraged folks to put in certain conditions, which I did, that allow it to be passed with a simple majority rather than a 2/3. And this one is pretty simple. It's if you're, let's say you have a big house, like a 5,000 square foot house, and your kids are off at school or they're already married with kids and grandkids or whatever, by right inside your house, you can put up to 900 square foot unit or up to 50% of the square footage, whichever's lower.
So smaller, right?
Well, it's smaller. It's accessory dwelling. It's not meant to be a, second family home. And if you want to do an external unit, then that is a special permit of the planning board. And it would fall under the same kind of requirements. This is a bylaw that whose intent is, both in the model bylaw and in my version, to make residential homeownership more affordable. So this is written as a draft anyway, that it only applies to full-time residential homes. This isn't something that if you got a, postage stamp thing and, you're not a resident of Stockbridge, that you can basically have two short-term rentals on one property, if you're not, you can't basically, we're not looking to like make it even better to have people, kind of buy and rent out on SDRs or property. But this is specifically to help residents afford to live here because we can't change the price of houses and we wouldn't want to. A lot of people in this town, a lot of their net worth is in their house. So people, having people's houses worth a lot is good for people. So this is just an attempt to make homes a little more affordable. And I've met many people. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, I met a young couple from Pittsfield who had bought a house and they run an ADU out of it. And the only way they can afford their mortgage is because they run an ADU out of it. I actually lived in Lennox, not Pittsfield. So I think it's a really good way to, if you can only afford a $300,000 mortgage, but then you got some rental income or short-term rental income from the, little apartment above your garage, and that lets you get up to a $500,000 mortgage, that increases the pool of people who could afford to live in the town. And that's really the purpose of this one.
Did you say that these units have to be within existing structures?
Only by right. So if it's within, there has to be a by right component for it to qualify as a majority only zoning proposal at town meeting. So the by right part of this bylaw is if it's in the house. And if it's a separate structure, like in a garage, or you want to build a little 900 square foot, like tiny home on your property or whatever, then you have to go to the planning board. Liz gets to decide, and we could have made it the select board. We could have made the zoning board of appeals. I felt and Donna felt, and that the planning board was the right fit for that because that's.
Have any of these come before your board at all or?
He just
starting
happened
now.
this week. And
Okay.
it's-
Yeah. So it's not a law yet.
All right.
It's basically like, I think on the books now, you can do up to 500 square feet, which is a really tiny house, and this just basically this aligns it with the state program. The ADU one is going to be interesting because a lot of the things in Stockbridge, you can see from the floor, we got a great staff, but it's not a giant staff. So part of the trick is to write bylaws that minimize the need for oversight and enforcement, because we don't have a giant staff to like be like, kind of,
Police. Yeah.
being the ADU police or the short-term rental police or any of the other police. So,
Right.
this is basically one that we're hoping, is self-policing. But, some people I think are going to express concern that, that people use it as a secret way to expand their house or something like that. And I think it's really about kind of, for me anyway, is that are we going to focus on how we can help people, or are we going to worry about, people want to abuse? We have rules, and if people aren't going to, sometimes people don't exactly follow them. And, we try our best. But anyway, this one is about trying to help promote residential ownership. So anyways.
Patrick, terrific step forward by proposing both.
Thank you.
Liz,
Major thing.
that's my opinion. But Liz, do you have any comments?
Oh, I think it's terrific. I think it's absolutely terrific.
Yeah.
Now, they do have to, assuming you will approve them, then that will entitle them to be on the warrant for the annual, for the town.
No, all they can do is comment on them.
Right.
It will already be on the warrant because the select board proposed them and as.
Oh, so they're not really approval, it's just.
Plus it's subject to, we've already referred to the planning board. And so unless the select board would reverse itself, and that's not my take on the select board's view on this, this will be on the town warrant. Now, the planning board, I want to work with the planning board because there's 7 people with a lot of experience working on bylaws and working with the consultants and everything. So I think that this is just a first draft. This is really now in the planning board's court. And there's a lot of folks there with, experience and good thinking. And so, they can make suggestions back to us on.
It's going to be on the warrant with majority vote only required?
Yes, both of them. They're separate.
But the form that we have tonight may be edited, suggested by the planning board.
Yep.
But to me, the critical things is the 900 square feet, that it can be up to that, right?
That's
But
right.
not greater.
That's right. If it was greater than that, it would have to be a 2/3 vote.
And if it's separate, if it's a garage or a tiny house or something that you put separate, then you would have to go for a special permit. Would that be from the planning board?
Yes.
So they would then have the power to decide whether you could do that.
Right. And the reason for a special permit in those cases, if you're doing an external house, you're building a separate house on your property, you maybe want to give the neighbors the right to kind of comment on it. Neighbors don't get a veto, but with our special permit, we did one for Pine Street the other day, and we had like 3 butters there, and they didn't have anything bad to say, but, they wanted to see how it went, and, kind of their neighbors, their butters, so this allows neighbors to weigh in, before a board actually, reviews and approves something. So I think that's good.
Not to get too granular, and not that this is a final document, but the way it states is if you had a garage that was a separate garage, it wouldn't be necessarily required to get approval from the planning board if you already had a garage that was built, right? It would be if you built an extra.
I'm not sure if it's written that way because I only had about 2 hours on Saturday to write it. But I will suggest to you that that's a good comment to make to the planning board. What?
Did you write that?
Well, I took the model bylaw, which is about 30 pages, and I made all the decisions to get it down to 3 pages. Because there's a lot of, there's a lot of decisions around these things. So that might be something that is worth commenting on, like that would be basically a pre-existing accessory dwelling unit, a pre-existing accessory structure, in this case, a garage, should fall under the by right provisions. That would be a good suggestion to make to Liz for her to bring to the planning board if she so.
I'm sure that would come up.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm not sure I thought of that because, my garage is, was built in like 1940 and, it's made of cinder blocks. So I wasn't thinking garages, but it's a good point. Yeah.
So are you taking any comments at this point or no?
Sure, love to hear
Hi,
from
Kate.
Hi, how are you? So I just wanted to correct one thing that was said, which is that the current wording limits accessory dwelling units to 500 square feet. That is not the case. The wording is the minimal livable area is 300 square feet for 1 unit and averages a minimum. So in both cases, a minimum. Averages a minimum of 500 square feet for 2 or more units. And I would encourage you to look at that wording in our zoning bylaw table of uses. It's 4.4. conversion of an accessory structure existing before January 1st, 1990 into one or more dwelling units, et cetera.
Right, but isn't there a maximum size in the current bylaw, Kate?
It goes on to say, the minimum area of the lot on which it is situated conforms to the requirements under 2 above, that alterations do not increase the size of the footprint of such pre-existing structure by more than 20%. Greater enlargements may not be used for housing. And finally, that 50% of all rental units so created be rented as affordable housing. And then that refers to the definition of affordable housing in our zoning bylaw.
Yeah.
I think that it would be, my recommendation would be to make sure you are familiar with the existing current wording in our bylaw as a first step. I know you're working with the state bylaw, Patrick, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so I mean, I always think it's good to know what's already on the books.
Okay, we're familiar with what's on the books, but you know, just to kind of look at those, a couple of those points, 20%. So if you had a 2,500 square foot house, which is actually 1,000 square feet bigger than mine, you'd be limited to no more than 500 square feet. That's one thing. And the second thing I would point out is that if every other unit in town has to be affordable, I think one of the reasons nobody uses this bylaw is because it requires us to have every other unit be affordable. I'm a big fan of affordable housing, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't really help somebody with affordability who's looking to buy a house here. You know, and I think that's maybe why in my time in government here, I've never seen someone try to create a housing unit using what is currently on the books. But you guys can debate it. It's been referred to you.
This is just my comment. They are intended to be accessory. And there are people in town doing it. They're just not doing it. They're just not on the radar screen, or they haven't, you know, gone through the system to do it. So, you know, and this is just a comment. I think it's good to you know, anticipate input. And one way to be in a position to do that is to know what's already there.
Kate, thank you very, very much for those comments.
I was just gonna ask.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of open discussion at your board meeting.
I was hoping that I could ask Kate to put it on our agenda for next week.
So I've already published the agenda. Let's see, what's today? Today's Monday.
We could,
You know, and we'll put this on an agenda well within the 65 day period that we're required to do so.
Excellent.
Good enough. Thank you. Is there any way, I don't know, Kate, we can't see you. What do we need to do, Patrick?
No, she's got her camera off. It's fine.
Oh, but
It's just on audio.
what about Andrea, though, and Jim?
Are there other people on this?
Yeah, Andrea.
Put on,
I think it's a,
just go with the hide video, the show video participants. Is that selected under?
there you
Yeah,
go.
there we go.
There we go.
We didn't want to lose you, guys. All right. Thank you very, very much. I think for that issue is to be continued. The next item is my meeting with Eileen Peltier. Through an introduction from a friend, I was able to meet with Eileen at Berkshire Housing. And it was an extremely helpful meeting in that they are referred to, I guess, in the vernacular as the big kahuna in our county because they are the largest owner and developer of affordable housing. And they have a large staff, they have a lot of capability, and they know a great deal about financing. And so she was extremely helpful to me to explain the process. And very briefly, I was there primarily to see her. It was more of a social visit, but it turned out to be quite a helpful business visit because she explained to me sort of what capabilities they have. And one of the big ones that would be huge for us is that they have a finance department and they know this alphabet soup back and forth. And she said to me that a project such as Pine Woods, to be properly revitalized, preserved. Preservation is the term they use for older affordable housing. We're looking at $3 to $5 million for projects of that size. And there's money available. She was overwhelmed. At that time, we had passed our motion to support a request for bonding from the CPC. And so I explained that to her, and she said that what we had done was remarkable, that no other town that she was aware of was willing to step forward and propose that the town support the affordable housing at that level. And she said that would make an enormous difference to the ability to raise money through state funding, through tax credits. And she also was able to explain to me, and I'm just going to summarize this, but tax credits are available for Pine Woods. They're difficult to get. They're very competitive. It's a bit fierce, but they're available. And there's two types of tax credits, one for new construction and one for preservation. And Pine Woods falls in the area of preservation. And as a result, I'm not going any further because then we'll be right in the soup. But in simple terms, there are tax credits. They happen to be called 4%. I don't know what they're 4% of, but that's their name. And there's a smaller portion and it goes to smaller units. The information that was discussed about whether you had to be 45 units to be considered for these tax credits is not correct. That because it costs between $200,000 and $400,000 to get the money, this seems so backward to me, but because you have to fill out forms, you have to have a capital stack, a amount of financing from as many as 12 sources, that you have to have somebody who knows where the sources are, and you have to pay them. And they have to go, they have to fill out stacks and stacks and stacks of forms. This is the most counterproductive thing I have really ever, I actually knew all this from my past, but anyway, they are available. There is a capital stack available to us, but there's a long way to go before you can get this money from all these sources. You have to do a lot more investigation of your project, what's needed to be done, what consultants can provide the information, what kind of bids, you have to have bids and et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very involved process of which Berkshire Housing is extremely knowledgeable and has had conversations with Pine Woods about this process. So they are in conversation together. And as a result of my meeting with Eileen, there has been further conversation. But I would say I would like to invite her to come and speak at our next meeting. I think all of you would find her extremely helpful. She's very knowledgeable. She comes from Vermont and she knows Jane Ralph, who runs Construct from their Vermont. Jane came from Vermont to go to Construct also. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer that, but that's a quick summary of that meeting.
They also own the apartments on Bridge Street in Great Barrington that SV.
Oh, so you partnered with Berkshire Housing on that?
Yeah, several others.
Oh, really? So did they provide the development expertise or did your CDC do it?
The development expertise, I'm not sure.
Well, who got it built? I mean, physically, who supervised it?
Well, we had a general contractor and
Right.
then we hired a project manager that's familiar with that. So there's a project manager and a general contractor, but we were the owners of it while it was being built. And then when it was completed, then Berkshire Housing now owns it.
Manages it.
Yeah.
And did they help you get the money?
That was before me, but I don't know, the process on that one.
I'm sure you had tax credits for that. How many units in that project?
35, I think, 37.
Oh, really? So that wasn't even the magic 45 people keep talking about?
Yeah, that might have been
Do you remember what the cost was?
It's about 350,000 roughly per unit. That's sort of what we were looking at. And plus the new one that's being built next to Guido's down on that one as well. Roughly, 350, 370, I think, roughly per unit.
Per unit, not five.
It does.
That's good. Those are good numbers. What,
Around here.
is CDC building down by Guido's? So both of them are yours, and then are you gonna, well, I know you're on the board, but your organization, did you?
On the governance committee, I don't do that stuff.
Do you think will Berkshire Housing own it when you're done with the same structure?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's going to take
I
it.
have a question for you. Did you, well, I know the answer to this, so I'm going to ask it because I want it in the public session. You had a chance to review with Berkshire Housing.
I did.
The capital expense report of future costs for Pine Woods. And what was their take on that? And what was their back of the napkin estimate of the needed investment?
Okay, well, as I said, the completely off the top was 3 to 5 million for Pine Woods. And she also, and that's not fair for us to pin that on, to say that's any kind of fixed number. But what she did do for me is she gave the plan to a gentleman named Matt Kruger, I believe is the way you say his last name. And he's there, his title is development head, I think. But he's the one who puts the financing stack together. And he looked at it and he wrote an email back, which Eileen forwarded to me, that had 3 stages, of which the first 2 were the same. He said, he looked at it and I hope everyone had a chance to at least review it. There's a section in there that talks about life safety. And
Let's not get there yet. Let's just stay with what the next step is first before we get there.
okay, well, the next steps in that particular comment are together in that step 1 is he identified the life safety section and he said that's of most, and the structural, and that's the first step. And he had put $30,000 against those steps.
That was for consulting, not to repair them,
That's only for consulting because,
to identify the problems.
well, further identify, the problems are identified and he said step 1 was actually not the structural, forgive me, it was the boilers. Hire somebody to investigate the boilers so we could avoid any catastrophe there, and included the structure. So it was 30,000 for structure and boilers, boiler consultants. And then step 2 was at the same time, he had a number called 300,000. And he thought that that 300,000 was for emergency kinds of,
Life safety.
well, like repairs. That would be actual fix-it money.
Yeah, of course. Right.
And so the third step was TBD, because that would be then give you enough time to do the complete study to see what needed to be done. In other words, to take the study that Mr. Connell did and dig deep into what the cost would be to get that work done. So the response then from Eileen was that since Construct was the owner that and manager, that they would work directly with Construct on that.
If Construct hired him, right.
Well, yes, I think there's, so she, for the moment, felt that, I don't think she was defining our role, but she was, when we met, she was very, very impressed, that Stockbridge had a trust, and she was very enthusiastic that we were taking an active role
Right.
in this. Do you have other things, Patrick?
Well, I just want to comment, so I see our job as, this is a collaborative board that is going to work with the folks at Stockbridge Housing Authority who are on now, the folks at Construct, other partners in the county who can assist us with the state, with the federal government. We're going to try to we're the cheerleaders for these. We're going to work in a very positive way to try to address these things. obviously, this isn't unique to Stockbridge, that there's more to be done than there's money to do it. And all we can do is try to kind of help, bring to bear the resources that we need to get this done and do it in an ordered fashion that starts with planning. So as we talk tonight about these issues, I just want to point out that this is not at all adversarial. We understand that there's this is and in some ways, one of the reasons why, Construct maybe had a little bit of room, as I understand it, to raise the rents a little bit higher than they did. They would have more money to do more things, but they wanted to make it more affordable for folks there. So there's no judgment at any of this. Well, but though we do have is we got information that there may be some work to do here that we're gonna have to figure out how to do. And when we start talking about structural things, we got to make sure we do in the right order, because it doesn't make sense to put siding on a building where the foundation is rotting or something or whatever. We may need to pick the buildings up and replace the steel before we do the siding and do that. I'm not a builder. I can't even assemble an IKEA desk. So I'm not suggesting I know anything about this. But what I want is, you can tell. You can tell. But what I'm suggesting is that we start with planning. And then maybe what we do is we complement that with truly a triage / emergency fund, so that we already got a couple $100,000, and maybe with the CPC round, we think about just making sure, because we can act with just a vote of 5 of us, and CPC only acts once a year. We aggregate a little bit of money into emergency fund. So if a boiler does blow and there's no money to pay for it, we can help. Or if a roof really does cave in or leak, we can help. But I think, though, that our plan should be that we start with the plan, and that we go through the process that we need to understand the universe of what the challenges are, and not, like I said, not in any kind of judgmental way. We're advocates. We are collaborator. That's not a good word, collaborator. But we're gonna work collaboratively and positively and support. But I think we're also dealing with taxpayer money, and so we gotta,
Well, I think if I can pick up on that, because we are dealing with taxpayer money, that it's very, very appropriate for us to augment the information gathering phase, which is where we are right now. And there is some very important information that has not been collected. And I can report that I had a discussion today with the partner at Tie and Bind, which is a very reputable structural engineering firm. And he's head of the structural department. And he recommended, we talked about, he's very familiar with the report that you all have seen. And he's very familiar with Mr. O'Connell, who wrote it. And in it, that there's a high recommendation that the first thing they do is hire Tie and Bind to do the structural review. And so what he recommended was step 1, or phase 1, would be approximately $18,000 to $20,000 survey of the structural conditions, identifying the issues and grading them as poor, medium, or fair and good. And that would give the information for Construct and ourselves to evaluate how we wanted to approach it. And then the phase 2 would be for them to do a more in-depth focus. Say we decided that, or the project decided that poor was going to be identified first, which seems sort of logical. They would then test and get some good conceptual bids and do the drawings. That would then provide the information to go out to bid with the contractors to correct the structural things that have been identified.
and this is obviously all Construct's job to do this stuff. I mean, but we can help fund it potentially.
We can.
I mean, that's our job, it's like, and if there's anybody from Construct on, or, we obviously have a representative of the Pinewoods Community Association here. Around this table, I'm not qualified at all when it comes to like housing and building issues, but I look around this table, we got a board member from affordable housing builder, we got, Jenny worked in senior management at Yale, right? Okay, you guys had buildings there, right? Even dorms, I think. People lived in those dorms. Yes, and my guess is that you had something to do it. We've got somebody who's an actual developer with projects in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. We've got a general business expert. We've got a real estate expert. And Michaela here, she basically took her seasonal cottage and, with her husband, converted it into a actual full year-round living space that they're raising their young son at. So I'm unqualified to be on this panel, but I think when you look at the rest of the panel, you all got like lots and lots of experience. Rely on that experience because there's a lot of people around this table who can help you and who can help everyone. And I just wanted to say that that's our job. Use us, don't use us. That's up to you.
Well, it brings us to a reconsideration. At the last meeting, we passed a motion which Mark put forward, I think at the consensus feeling.
Back when we thought it was all so simple.
Yes, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mark. I would like to bring before whether we,
Motion to rescind?
since you made it to begin with, is that what you wish to do?
Well, is that the appropriate thing at this point, having learned what we've learned since then?
Should we, we could either rescind or table. Who?
That's table. I don't know.
Well, we passed it, so.
Yes.
Is it past the table stage?
Right. Yeah, probably.
Right. Would you like?
Well,
to
you
make
want a clean slate?
Would you like to make
Yeah,
another motion?
I would make a motion to rescind the prior motion that passed to request a $960,000 bond for the purpose of an overall review of the circumstances at Pinewoods.
In lieu of, right? Be in lieu of?
Well, I think we'll get to that as a second motion.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Two motions.
Well, it's just to pull back what we put because that's no longer active and alive as an approach to
I think
this.
we have, with further information, reconsidered the wisdom of our vote.
Yes. New information,
New information.
new path.
Okay.
You'll have to clean that up a little bit.
I'm sorry.
So motion to rescind.
Okay. Do we have
Need a second.
do we have a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Don. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Thank you.
Now let's talk about a new motion because
All right.
it goes back to, encouraging the budgets on these developments are very tight. So ask Andrea, and I think we should strongly encourage the next steps in the planning process and help with funding if it's necessary. And I also think that we should be cognizant of the fact that some of these things may need to be addressed before that plan is in place on sort of a triage and emergency basis. And I think we should, I'm not sure what the number yet should be though. And I'm wondering if we can express support and then maybe, who's the Pinewoods representative, you?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we should, I think that Liz and Randy should maybe be authorized in a not to exceed fact. Look, I didn't get a sense that he was going to give us $1 million anyway, but I think that we got to come up with at least some kind of ask that addresses the issue of emergency needs and the issue of planning, and make sure that those monies are available as necessary. So I think that we could either meet again before the 10th or we can empower them to, speak on our behalf and put together something for CPC by the deadline.
By the 10th.
Yeah.
So would CPC allocate some of these funds as sort of on a standby basis, emergency fund? We're asking them to sort of fund.
Well, we would
emergency-
ask them to fund this Affordable Housing Trust Fund and tell them that the purpose of those funds was they can fund us and we can fund them.
Right.
But they can't fund them
Right.
anytime but once a year. We, however. So, so the idea would be to just, I think this CBC cycle has $903,000 because of some money that, we discovered that had not been spent by prior awardees. It's usually around 400,000. And And, over 20 years, 10,000 not spent here or there adds up to real money. And so, there's 3 buckets for CPC. There's open space and recreation. That's 1. There's historic preservation. That's 2. And there's affordable housing. That's 3. So, there's, and CPC can also leave money as undesignated, which it generally does, with at least some of the money, so that, you kind of have the money to acquire, that 100-acre field if it ever comes for sale or whatever, but nevertheless, we can ask for a directed grant to us to help address these issues. It could be the same for Andrea. That money could also be used if there's an emergency at the Heaton Court,
So do you have a dollar figure in mind?
I don't yet, but I'm thinking maybe, look at, there's 3 buckets, something under 300,000,
There are lots of people asking for that money.
There's a lot of people asking for that money, and CPC can also award less than what we ask for.
I have a question though. If is it 30% approximately that's to be allocated toward?
A minimum of
Housing.
10% has to be allocated to each bucket. So the minimum, and that's of the annual, the stuff that's undesignated is not counted toward that. So the minimum that's to be allocated to open space and historic and housing is about $40,000, 41,000 a year, because it's a minimum of 10%. Now, that said, there's 900,000 in the thing, and, maybe it's 100, maybe it's 200. The more, look, my guess is that the CPC, would be comfortable with some number with, because we already have been given a grant, so we have some funds available too. It may not be anywhere near that amount, though. I can't speak for CPC. I'm on it, but I'm only 1 vote. So, but I don't have a complete answer yet, but I think that.
If we were to move to do this, do we need a dollar figure?
Well, I just still feel like if the boilers are $40,000 each and they were asking for 30 of them or 26 of them, I don't know. They were asking for some money to finish the driveway, but I believe that the bill on the driveway so far was.
Patrick, I'm going to interrupt. There's already been 150,000 designated for that.
I was about to say that.
And they've only spent 50.
That's what I was about to say, that, yeah.
So I think there's enough to finish the driveway.
I think so too, but the thing is, somebody's got to be evaluating those things. And I think that evaluation should happen between the annual CPC cycle. So, we'll see. So I think that definitely the 20,000 is the next phase for this consulting. We should offer to fund. And whether or not, I'm not sure we can fund it through us or CPC money because it may not qualify. And in that case, I will make a proposal to the select board to use ARPA money for that. I think that's a really important one for us to make the next step on. How do we make decisions without knowing what the need is? It's just really.
Patrick, I'd like to just augment that. Not only do I believe we need the structural study, which is the 20, but we need a boiler study to really evaluate.
Like 30.
So it's in that's max $30,000 for those 2 studies. So we could definitely use our own funds, and then we could ask CPC to. Remember that Pine Woods was built with CPC money, so they are not restricted to just capital improvements. They can fund.
Did they respond to you on that email? You asked them.
That's not according to Donna. There's certain things that they had asked for on that list that did not qualify according to Donna, like the tree work, like potentially I think she said the appliances.
But why?
I'm not a lawyer, Rainey. I can't tell you. You call Donna, you're the chair, you have access to.
I will find out what the answer to why is, because I know that at Pine Woods, there is an opening for us to have a broader definition of money.
Could be. I don't think we're allowed to do maintenance. So the painting, according to Donna, the painting.
Yes, we can do maintenance. I know they don't like that
This to
word.
get it out of the
They don't like
preservation
the word.
bucket? Is this to?
Yeah, you're not supposed to do maintenance or oriented items. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but I'll tell you this, unless you convince town council, this town won't do it. Because town council reviews every CPC application. And so bring it up with Donna, because she's the decider.
I will take on Donna, okay?
I don't like the sound, but okay.
That's right.
Collaborate with her. Collaborate with her.
Capital maintenance.
Take off the gloves.
Maintenance. We have that guy at the state.
It sounds like preservation to me.
That's a different bucket.
Well, why not get some of that bucket too?
No. There's lots.
No, it has to be his.
Preservation, historic preservation.
That's not our job, right? Preservation.
Anyway, no, this is what Berkshire Housing calls what is necessary right now at Pine Woods is that it falls in their definition of preservation money.
So we're going to figure it out. And if we miss the CPC cycle, it's not the end of the world. There's one every year. Pinewood's has been there for 20 years. I want to kind of make progress, but we're not going to rush it. That's my sense. I think we got to be measured. And
Do you think, Patrick, we need a motion to say that we support and would be willing to use our funds to get the consultant information for structure and boilers?
well, more than that, we've got to have a motion that says we're going to put in an application. This board has to apply to CPC, not me or you. I mean,
understand
money's
that.
going to us now. We got to ask for it as a board. So yeah, we definitely need a motion.
All right, so
Two different things,
What?
for two different things. We're applying to CPC, but there's,
For money for a study, for money to further advance the needs assessment and money as a sort of emergency triage fund, just in case while we're doing, it could take a year to get all this information together. And so in that year, if something kind of, we got a significant issue that needs to be addressed,
the structural study, he said, would take 3 to 4 months before we would have any.
then you got the boiler one and okay, good.
And then the boiler one.
That's not the end of the line before we can go get tax credits. There's other work that,
Oh, there's a lot of
a
other.
lot of other work. So, yeah.
Is there a part of this process that would include assessing, if it ends up being 5 million that's required, some assessment of whether the value of upgrading Pine Woods compared to, starting over and doing a different project that would also require funding and which people could then move into? Is there going to be any of that kind of assessment?
Look, I think that the back of the napkin on that is that, construction per unit in the county right now is running 500 to 600,000 for an affordable unit. There's 32 units there, so that's what, $18 million
We just
or so.
heard 350.
What?
I just heard 350.
Are those units as big as Pine Woods?
I don't know how.
And they have a garage and I think that they're,
Garage, they have a parking lot,
no,
but
there's no room at Pine Woods to expand into parking. That's why they built the garages underneath the units because, the relative buildable areas, I don't know. Even at 350, 32 times 350 is $10 million. So unless it ballooned way beyond what 3 to 5 million is, it's likely to be, but we don't have the answer to that question yet. And we won't until we know what the total needs are. But it's still kind of a heavy lift.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I just think it might be worth at least asking the question.
Oh, absolutely.
As we go forward, to make sure that we've made a conscious decision.
Well, in addition, there are other issues there because it was built on a swamp in a wetland. And, there are a lot, I think the answer to your question is that that's one of the questions that is farther down, but will evolve when it seems necessary.
hands up. She's got a hand up.
Oh,
Hi, Andrea.
Andrea,
I just want to throw in there that an affordable housing unit, they're estimating is $500,000 per unit. That's it. That was my offer.
Thank you.
thank you, Andrea.
Conversation.
17.
a good rule of thumb.
Oh, we have someone else who just joined us. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Corey.
Corey?
Who are you?
Hello. Yes, could you introduce yourself, Corey?
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Corey Ziobro, and I lived at Pine Woods for just about 5 years.
Okay, terrific.
Wonderful.
Thank
Great to
you.
have you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'd like to just participate in the conversation. I appreciate it. I'm listening in.
Okay,
Thank you.
we're glad you're here.
Is this
Thank
where all the
you.
young people are?
That's where the families are. It's
I'm
where all the
sorry.
kids live.
She's a member, I asked her to come.
Okay,
Good. It's really encouraging to see.
yes, we'd like to say it's very encouraging, Corey, for us to see you. So thank you for coming. Just as a fact, I did send this around. I hope you looked at it. It really goes with Patrick's. There's a number of ways. And Liz, one of the issues is that Kate just said, we have a bylaw that allows ADUs, but, and people.
Only an accessory structure is built before 1990, you know that.
Right.
That's like,
Can't go.
yeah, we allow them in accessory structures built before 1990.
We could change the date.
Yep, we could.
That would be good.
Oh, great. Okay, are you still there? That's great.
Yeah, I'm waiting until you get to public comments because I wanted to ask you something about short-term rentals.
Oh, well, why don't you, so you don't have to wait the whole time, just,
Oh. That would be great because dinner's in the oven.
all right. Why don't you ask, I'm very happy to skip to public comments, so, Kate, we'd love to hear from you.
I got to answer Patrick's question first. Chicken pot pie from Berkshire Mountain Bakery.
Oh,
That sounds nice.
All right, we're all coming.
Someone bring the wine. So at any rate, so my question for you is, and Randy, we can have this conversation offline if you want, if it's, I don't want to take up too much time here, but I think that very much to Patrick's credit, he introduced the short-term rental bylaw, but it could be, you know, you've got compromise, and that bylaw still has some problems. Nearby neighbors of mine are the direct recipients of those problems. And I do see missing middle housing in my area, what's referred to as missing middle housing, going to outside buyers of these properties. So I'm wondering if you've had any discussion about short-term rentals, and if I have, you know, an interest at the Housing Trust Committee in working on strengthening that bylaw along with at the planning board level too.
My first question, Kate, is, do you think that the short-term rentals, we are in overload, I think, in terms of what we're trying to do right now. Short-term rentals is a very important issue, of which we do have, as you said, the bylaw. But do you think it's best handled? I mean, does anyone think?
I can handle it. I can put it up, you know, for discussion at the planning board level. And what I'm thinking is that when we talk about the these two bylaw proposals, that I will also put down discussion of short-term rentals. I'll put that on the agenda as well. But it would be great to be coordinating and working collaboratively with the Housing Trust.
I don't mean that we wouldn't be willing to work with you. My reaction is that we've got some heavy lifting right now.
I think, Kate, that we can, you know, on the planning board level, do it and then bring it to them. If there's anything that we don't, you know, if we feel we need to get more information. I think there are a lot of ways to get that information, and we're starting to do that now separately.
Okay, yeah, no, we can do that, Liz. And I guess that probably answers my question that you didn't get as far with short-term rentals is finding out from Mike Canales how many are actually registered at the town level.
We're getting that information next week, we hope.
Okay, well, that's good. That's helpful information. So.
And about 20.
About 20 out of how many?
We don't know. On Monday, I've set up an appointment with a company that offers monitoring services similar to what Great Barrington is doing. And we're getting a demo. And as part of that demo, they run all the numbers for Stockbridge. So we kind of get we get like a free snapshot of where we are. And if we decide to buy their service, we buy it. But my guess is, because I got the same demo 2.5 years ago, is that there's 100 to 150 in town.
But since they're required to register with the DOR at this point through the short-term rental portals, we can't just get that information directly. Can we get it from?
No, the DOR will not share address information with anyone who pays into the system. They only share the street they're on. But because you can go on the unit, if you want to spend an afternoon having a lot of fun, go on the Airbnb and see a picture snapshot of the house, and then find that house in our on the street where we live, and all of a sudden you can tell which ones are, but it's a ridiculous limitation of the state.
Well, that,
Okay,
and you have to pick the right week.
So it sounds like we need more data and.
So we're going to get it next week.
Okay, good. All right, good. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay, Kate, thank you for joining us, and enjoy your chicken pot pie.
Bye now. Thank you for your good and hard work, everybody. Bye now.
Thanks.
And for
Bye-bye.
clarification, short-term rentals, would that also include workforce housing in your opinion?
Well, short-term rental is 30 days or less.
Okay, so that's just Airbnb.
Right. ADUs would cover
ADUs.
housing more, so.
But workforce housing is more realistic if people can afford the mortgage. So the reason why you maybe with residents wanting, give them options isn't because you want them to use their primary, unit as a short-term rental. It's because the accessory unit, or if they move in the accessory unit, they could use their primary unit. It just makes the mortgage more affordable for the locals. Yeah, but having said that, I think Kate and a lot of folks make a good point that, that the last thing we want is these positive cash flows to eat up our housing stock and housing supply. We don't want basically, folks buying up units en masse and re-renting them because they can make 25% of their costs. It's like, it's a formula for this to be like Disney World for, tango enthusiasts, and that's not good. So.
Oh, Randy, one other thing I forgot to mention is that if you haven't read the diagnostic report, I highly recommend that you read it. And the author of that report, Joel Russell, mentioned that there is another option to look at for affordable housing, which has to do with the resident central district. And basically in the RC district, I'd have to check the zoning bylaw, and I will do that, but there's a restriction that is sort of unnecessary for second floors. That means that you can't rent out second floors. So I'll take another look at that. Don't quote me on that because I might have that wrong, but I know that there was a restriction that Joel Russell, who wrote the diagnostic report, recommended taking a look at.
Can you help me? I don't know what the diagnostic report is.
So the diagnostic, so we had a, at the
It's on the town
time,
website.
Okay.
Patrick, at the time of the, we had a zoning review committee. And
Yes,
as part of that, we had a diagnostic study that was done sort of in lieu of doing a master plan. The thinking, there's different thoughts on master planning, but where I arrived at was that it's a lot of money for something that often just sits on a shelf unused. So in lieu of that, you could, what Joel Russell recommended doing, and he has a law degree from, I think Boston University and a planning degree, and I'm trying to remember where his planning degree was from, but he recommended instead you do this diagnostic study. And what that is it's sort of a review of your zoning bylaws concurrently with meeting with various town representatives to get a sense of what people are thinking. And I do recommend reading it. It's nice, it's well written. And it's posted on the town website, as Patrick said.
thank you. I think that I'll be happy to, and I'm sure everybody, we recommend it as when you can't sleep, right?
I'll send it. Are you on town email, Randy?
Yes, yes, I have the R. Warner at,
Okay.
if you do, then I'll send it out to everybody on the group.
I'll send it to you.
All right, Kate, thank you. And thanks for your participation.
Thank
So,
you.
so what do y'all think about maybe asking, kind of scaling down the proposal of CPC to 150,000 and have it directed toward emergency needs if they come up, along with supporting some portion of those emergency needs and some portion of, kind of planning and due diligence needs, like basically kind of the next step in these reports. I think that I think without figuring out with construct at the table, what percentage we would fund, I think we're going to have some flexibility, or they should just, But I think that's a reasonable number based on the cost of these boilers and some of the other things on the list.
Right, I think Joanna, I'm going to give Joanna a chance to comment. She has, if you've had a chance to look at the website, she has some ideas also, which I think are certainly worth our attention. So do you want to revamp that vote?
Do I want to what?
Well, we made a vote to,
We already rescinded it. I'm talking about kind of like, yes.
Didn't we
New
have
one,
a-
right? We're talking about a new.
Yeah, we're talking about a new one.
no, this is a new vote, didn't
Yeah.
we?
Well, I'm just saying, I think the number, something like around 150 is a good.
A good
number.
starting
We already have a couple 100,000 that, you know, if literally there was like a tornado, I mean, we could, you know, I mean.
Certainly we
God forbid, but.
We could step up, but those funds are very, very good to have at the moment till.
I'm not suggesting we spend any of those. Yeah, I mean, but I'm just figuring out if we're going to make an ask, we have to vote on it now.
Okay,
Not now, but at this meeting.
well,
If you
I
want to
think,
hear from others first, I don't care.
all right, why don't we do that? Joanna and Corey, we lost Corey?
Yeah, she stepped away, but I think that Marissa's on here.
Marissa, are you on?
There she is.
Oh, come back.
Hello, welcome.
I am.
Hi, Marissa.
Hello.
Hi.
Would you like to come up to bring your chair to the table?
I'm sure. Okay. So, so my name is Johanna Lindsay. I started Pinewoods Community Association in 2020, which is a tenant-based or tenant-led advocacy organization or tenant association. And yeah, I just saw that there was a great need for some engaged nonprofit work in that, in terms of tenants' rights and improving the conditions at Pinewoods. Everybody who lives there loves Pinewoods. We love living there. And there's a lot of positive things to say about it as well. But I definitely think there's room for improvement. And I know what got me to start PCA was, I was talking to a lot of my neighbors and I just kept hearing a lot of similar issues happening in each unit. So, for example, one thing Marissa might talk about is the dryers. There's a lot of people, tenants that are having issues with their dryers burning out. There's 2 people in the tenant association, actually 3 now, I just learned of, who've had multiple dryers burn out. And we're not sure why that is, but Marissa can talk about, she's one of those people who've had multiple dryers burn out. And, a lot of the issues, I think everybody who is a tenant at Pinewoods is very good about communicating these issues. We had an app called Upkeep, which, people could use to make maintenance.
Excuse me. I'm having a hard time hearing you. What's your,
Could everybody mute?
could everyone mute their microphone, please?
Thanks.
I was like not even paying attention. So I think, and I want to just piggyback onto what Patrick said earlier is that, PCA, we really want to just build bridges. We want to collaboratively work with Construct on addressing these issues. For whatever reason, some of these things have not, there's kind of repeated issues that we haven't been able to get to the bottom of. And we have a really great new maintenance team. I have to say, I think they came on a couple years ago now. God, time flies, but they're very good and they're very responsive. And I think, to some degree, there's, just these issues have not yet been resolved. And so, for example, with the dryer situation, my guess was that maybe these vents weren't being cleaned properly and they really need to be cleaned a couple times a year. Not only is it potential fire hazard, but it's causing people's dryers to burn out quickly. And I did talk to Mike, who's the head of maintenance, the other day about it. And it sounds like, it's not exactly a simple solution. So I'm not sure how we can resolve that issue. But all I know is that from the tenant perspective, the tenant side of things, I do have 3 people in the tenant association who've had the same problem. So this does need to get addressed because none of us can afford to buy 3 dryers.
You buy your own dryer?
Yes, we all have our own appliances. Yeah.
So these are all different brands.
Yeah, different
And the
appliances.
same thing keeps happening.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually, I'd like to talk a little bit more about some of the other initiatives that PCA has, but I think this would be a good juncture to introduce Marissa and let her talk about about the dryer issue, because that is something that she's been dealing with more recently. And so Marissa is a PCA tenant member. And go ahead and talk, Marissa.
Welcome, Marissa.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Marissa Mullen. I've lived at Pinewood since June of 2014. And I live there with my husband who's disabled. And yes, our biggest issue at Pinewood is, first and foremost, I will say I do love living at Pinewood, but we do have a lot of issues that haven't been repaired. And I think my bigger issue is that when we try to address these issues, if they can't be resolved, it basically gets pushed back to the tenant. So for example, my dryer, this is my now third dryer. I paid $1,200 for this dryer 3 years ago, September. This is my third dryer since I've lived at Pinewood. I've had Berkshire Appliance, Henry's Electric, and Lowe's all tell me that it's because our dryers are vented. The way mine is, it's built like a closet into the hallway upstairs, and the vent goes out through the back, but then it goes vertically up about 10 feet.
It takes a 90.
It takes a 90-degree turn. Then it goes up about 10 feet into the attic space where they have it connected to one of those flexible hoses, which apparently isn't even connected because the entire attic is full of lint. But the problem is that Berkshire Appliance told me is that because these vents are so long and they're vertical,
Way too long.
the air and the motor have to work so hard to circulate that air that it's just burning the motors right out of the dryer. And it's causing huge condensation and lint backup inside the wall. Now, the maintenance man did come and said he scoped it and looked and there wasn't much in there, but I know for a fact that it has caused that problem because in my son's room, which is just adjacent on the other side of where the dryer is, he had a huge black mold problem a couple years ago.
Huge what problem?
Black mold.
Oh.
Yeah, black mold.
That's another issue that we'll talk about.
That's
Yeah.
terrible.
So I'm not so sure there isn't still mold in the wall where the condensation is collecting in there. But the ultimate problem is the way that they design these dryer vents. They're just working so hard to circulate the air that the dryer can't support it. So the dryer is lasting us maybe 2 years, 2.5 years, even being serviced, and they're burning right out.
So the dryer's is on the second floor and an internal wall, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So it needs to be on an external wall.
Correct.
There's actually another gentleman, tenant member, who I was hoping to come today, who had the same exact problem. And he's currently fixing his dryer right now as we speak. He had to bring his daughter to a doctor's appointment, and he said he got the parts in today and he was going to be working on it. And he wasn't able to make it, but I wish he could have been here to just tell you. And he actually works maintenance for Racebrook Lodge. And so he knows a little bit about maintenance and this stuff. And
David's about to turn 88.
Yep.
what's that? Oh, so that's just one issue. There's and Marissa, I don't know, Chad's not here. Marissa works at the Housatonic post office. And did you get a chance to talk to Chad about his dryer and if that's been resolved? Our neighbor, Chad.
What's that?
Marissa,
he was watching the meeting with me for a little bit. He's still delivering the mail, but he was watching with me for a little bit. He is still having the same issue with his dryer, which is brand new, and he's a buyer because he's getting that condensation from his dryer.
Sorry, Marissa, we just missed everything you said. Could you say it again?
Sorry.
What I'd like to do, if we could, is we're really interested, and clearly there's a dryer problem.
Yes.
So if we could have this as a category that we need to address, it'll be part of the studies. And so it sounds like maybe there's a design, an operation, a cleaning, there's a whole few steps here.
Yeah, and I mean, I can get more information from Marissa and email it to you about,
Great.
yeah, as far as what the feedback she's gotten from the Berkshire Appliance and the various
How hard is it to
outside.
cut a new vent? I mean, I don't know. Once again,
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that
inherited a house.
the vent is, so I believe, at least in my unit, the dryer connects to the hose underneath, like towards the floor, and then it goes into the wall. And they just recently attached like one of those flexible tubes, whatever they're called. And there is a big span of length.
I understand that. How hard is it to do? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a good thing for construction.
This-
Because you're the representative of.
Clearly a maintenance issue and
It's a
design.
design issue.
And a design.
It's a design.
Bad
It has to be resolved because
Okay.
we're going to keep buying
Right.
dryers.
Okay, good. So we got one thing on. Let's
Thank
try
you.
on. What's the next?
So is there any other issues, Marissa, that you wanted to talk about?
Especially with the perspective of the current conversation, which is around what we should request from funding for this next cycle. So, I think that's kind of
Right,
the context of this
Oh,
conversation.
One thing I will say, Marissa, her husband just learned that he's not just learned, but he just received disability for MS. I think he's in the car with Marissa, but I asked, how are things with your husband? Are you going to be in need of a wheelchair ramp? And she said, yes, they're going to need a wheelchair ramp for him and probably something to assist him getting him up to the second floor. Marissa.
Yeah.
Is your husband, what's the setup in your apartment like right now in terms of your husband's disability? Is he going to need assistance getting upstairs, or are you going to move the bedroom downstairs? How's that going?
Yeah, I don't know. There's no space to move the bedroom downstairs. We don't have a bathroom downstairs either. Everything is upstairs. So for now, I don't know. Ultimately he really is going to need a chairlift probably at some point, but I don't know it's not an immediate need, but the wheelchair ramp he does need pretty soon.
All right, thanks,
Good.
Marissa.
Good. Thank you, Marissa, for participating. Corey, would you like to add your comments?
Yes, hi, I'm Corey Ziobro, and I work as a bookkeeper in Stockbridge and all over the area. I work for a heating and cooling company, actually. So it's interesting to hear y'all talking about the boilers at Pinewoods. Thank you. And so my experience with Pinewoods is that there are a lot of design flaws. This is primarily, recently they have had a lot of new staff with the, I'm sorry, I'm distracted. They've had a lot of new staff. And so they've been very attentive to, Joanna, can you confirm that they have, been a little bit more attentive than they had been in the past?
Oh, yeah, compared to the previous maintenance guy who really didn't do anything. In fact, we would see him in town on, company hours. But now, the team, we're very happy with the new team. They're very good. I just think that the issues are above their head and that they can't really do anything more than what, they're just kind of like the people that implement. But
And so for me, what it really came down to was that I saw a lot of things that were happening and tried to report them. And I felt like my voice was unheard. And that really felt bad. I saw that there was a thing happening with the washing machines above where I park my car. This has been remedied since, but I don't know if this is happening in every apartment, but the washers were being drained. Sorry, my dog's barking in the background. The washers were being drained into the wall. And, this is a clear design flaw. So the washing machines were draining into the wall and it was causing water damage above where I was parking my car. And this happened in 2 apartments, and who knows if it's happening in all the rest of them. So I fully support your, idea of getting someone in there to assess the building design. This is going to be the primary thing. We saw that the driveway was built incorrectly. We saw that the washing machines are draining somewhere unknown in some of the buildings. We saw that the dryers are not working correctly. We see the fan for when we cook, the exhaust fan that should be going outside. This is a very simple thing. is blowing back inside and causing the smoke alarms to go off every time we cook. So there's a lot of things that need immediate attention at Pine Woods, and I'm really grateful for this conversation.
Thanks.
Thanks, Corey, very much.
Do you know, either Corey or Joanna, whether the fire alarms also are CO2 detectors?
Oh, gosh, yeah, so that's another issue. Good thing you brought that up. So we do have a problem with the fire alarms at Pine Woods. They go off at least once a week. And the fire department, I feel bad for them. They're in there every week turning it off. So there's some kind of electrical issue with how they're wired that it's mainly the main building, the central building that goes off. But it keeps people up at night. It'll wake the whole complex up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, it seems like once a week. So that's a whole other issue that needs to be addressed too.
Question, they changed.
They're supposed to be hardwired. Hardwired.
Oh,
Are they hardwired or
They're
are they?
hardwired,
They are
but
hardwired.
for whatever reason, there's a issue with the wiring of the hardwired ones into the main building.
My question for you is though, when was the last time they were replaced?
I don't know.
Wait a minute, there's someone speaking. Hello?
If somebody could turn off their.
I think that was,
My question for those that were, Marissa, I guess, since you've been there since 2014, have they changed or replaced the smoke CO2 detectors since you've been there?
They've come in and they've checked them. I've reported the smoke alarm issue as well. Thank you, Corey, for bringing that up because that's a huge issue in my apartment. On average, I would say at least once a week, my smoke detectors inside my apartment go off at 3 a.m. for no reason. But yes, they have come in, they have checked the fire alarms, they've replaced them. They're supposed to be hardwired. I don't believe they are. But they've come in and checked them, but it's never fixed the issue and they still don't work properly.
yeah.
Okay, but my question was really, have they replaced them?
I would like to interject here.
Yeah.
In my apartment, they were very diligent in checking the smoke alarms. They made sure that they came twice, sometimes per year, twice, definitely once.
Okay.
But my issue was that I had to unplug them because they would go off every time I was cooking.
Right.
So it was totally irrelevant. It doesn't matter if they're in there or not. They're not working the way they should.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the
I
question,
noticed they were up to date.
Have they been replaced? I do not
Yes.
know. I know that they replaced the batteries and they look like updated hardware.
I've been there 3 years and I've never seen them replace.
Okay, so we have, Michael Canals has asked fire chief and the building inspector to review the life safety report and to take action if necessary to make, just to ensure that, especially the life safety stuff, there's other issues there I know that are not life safety related, but town is going to make a priority. Town is currently, this happened today, is going to make sure that all the life safety issues that as required by state fire marshal and, you know, the state building code are addressed. Now, this isn't going to happen overnight if there are outstanding issues. And the question of like cooking, setting off the fire alarms, it almost sounds like something funny, but it really isn't, because if people are being encouraged to disable their fire alarms,
Right.
when you really need them, it could be a disaster. And I think it's really important that in the kind of the longer term report that these kind of issues have to be addressed, because, you know, it's, you know, you just don't want a tragedy occur because, you know, yeah.
It also is an issue of the right to peace. Massachusetts, the right to peaceful residence. I don't know what the exact law is called, but it's a Massachusetts general housing law that we have the right to peace. And when these fire alarms are incorrectly wired or whatever's happening are going off at 3 a.m, and I highly doubt people are cooking at 3 a.m, or just going off randomly, it wakes up the entire complex. And all of us work jobs. And so it's kind of interfering with our right to peace. Peaceful living.
I think another thing that can set it off is moisture in the walls.
Yes, and that's,
Right.
well, that's another huge issue.
That may be it. It may not be, you know, there are lots of things they should be looking at.
Yeah.
Patrick, if there's any room on your list, the 2 calls I've gotten in my planning board capacity from Pine Woods had to do with their energy bills. Now, maybe things have changed, but I don't know if there's ever been an energy assessment done there, but it might be worth, maybe you've already looked into that, but it might be worth, if you haven't, checking into that. Because there is, Mass Saves has the programs that helps out with energy assessments and what's required in the way of insulation and so on to help save on energy bills.
Yeah, I actually recently made a call to maintenance. My son's room is extremely cold. When it gets cold, it just gets much colder in that room compared to my room. So he's 6 years old. He'll have to come and sleep in my room. But I just I had maintenance come to take a look at, there's possibly a zoning issue, the heating zone issue with the boiler. But it just feels colder in that room. And I'm not sure if there's anything that could be done to improve the insulation.
It's not a ghost or something.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a general question? Each building is approximately the same size, correct?
I don't know about approximately, but.
What about your building? Do you live in? How many units are in your building?
So there's 2 units in my building. It's set up kind of like a duplex. So there's a shared wall in the center and a unit on either side. That's how Marissa's unit's set up.
How many bedrooms is yours?
2 bedrooms.
So they're the same, right? Both of them?
Yeah, so myself and my neighbor both have a 2-bedroom house or apartment. Marissa has 2 children, so I think she has a 4-bedroom. So there are larger units.
I see.
2 to 3 or 4-bedroom units.
Yeah, and can I interject something about the energy bills? In my apartment, I can only speak for myself, but the front door is completely, like, the molding and everything is completely gone around the front door. There's no insulation in the floor, from the floor to underneath the apartment, which is up on the stilts. So the floors are extremely cold. You can never I keep my heat on about 75 and it's still cold in my apartment.
Wow.
So my energy bill is over $500 a month, every month in the winter.
Your electric bill?
Yeah.
How do you, is it natural gas heat there?
It's both electric and natural gas is what I'm told.
So you pay your gas bill as well?
Yeah,
In addition to the 500 for your electric bill?
correct.
How much is your gas bill, just out of curiosity?
My gas bill is roughly $150 a month.
Yeah.
So if you do an energy audit, they will analyze all your utilities and costs.
Yes.
Just so you know, though, Mass Save isn't the right place for energy audits for Pine Woods. It would be Berkshire Community Action Council, which does the 100% audits rather than the, partnering and paid, with us. Mass Save, it's only a percentage. With affordable housing, it's 100% and it's BCAC. So,
What is it? Berkshire what? What's the name of it?
Community.
BCAC, Berkshire Community Action Council. I think, yeah.
I believe I've had them do energy audits in previous apartments and they have to get the specific permission from the landlord to do an audit.
Of course, right.
Yeah, and if there's any suggestions like, increasing insulation and things, they have to get permission from the landlord to do that. So hopefully that wouldn't be a barrier for anybody looking to get an energy audit, or an audit or improvements made. But they do it for free, so.
Joanna, are you aware that any improvements have been made for energy
I
efficiency?
mean, I haven't had it, I haven't done an energy assessment since I've lived there, but, and I'm not sure, maybe Marissa or Corey has, but I don't know of anybody that has in the tenant association, but I will ask. Corey, have you ever had an energy assessment done by BCA?
No, I have not, but I can tell you that natural gas is the most affordable. Obviously, we all know that natural gas is right now one of the most affordable sources. And so it's great that Pine Woods has natural gas.
Yeah.
Nothing's cheap.
Corey's the treasurer of our kind of association, and I love her because she always ends things on a positive note. So
Terrific. Okay, we're getting a list here. Joanna, are there other things that you think are maintenance issues, or would you like to talk about some of the proactive, positive steps forward that you envision?
I think I just want to say something really quick about the black mold issue. There have been a few people who have mentioned black mold, signs of black mold, possibly having symptoms of black mold toxicity. So if there's any kind of assessment we can get done for that, for mold remediation, that would be really appreciative. We would appreciate that. So let me just navigate here to my website, which I'm still just.
That can cost $5 million.
Okay, so yeah, so some of the things that, we would like to, some of the initiatives that we're trying to push forward with and with your help. I've talked to Randy about the community garden improvements. So, one thing I'm working on right now with PCA is I'm working through all the documentation and writing of things for a nonprofit status. Probably going to be a 501c4 by the sounds of it, but we're not sure. So that I can write grants for things. But one of the things that I was going to write a grant for that we need is a fence, a perimeter fence for the community garden. I tried to get on to Berkshire Fence today to try to get an idea of how much it would cost for a perimeter. I can't talk today, I'm sorry. I didn't get much sleep this weekend. A perimeter fence. I don't have that information yet, but I'm going to get back to you guys on that. But so a perimeter fence is needed. A couple of years ago, we had a tree come down on the fence, the previous fence. We've had a lot of trees come down. Actually, that's a whole other topic. So we can definitely use a fence, new raised bed gardens, the ones we have now. We've had a couple recently put in by Greenagers. But I think what I'm thinking is going to have to happen is the space that is being used for the community garden right now is not being allocated very well. So there's like a couple of raised beds here, but then there's some kind of on the farther side, and then there's this space in the middle. And the other project that I'm hoping to work on is the playground. We need a new playground space because the playground that's there, if you ever get a chance to drive through Pine Woods and see what's there, you probably wouldn't want your children playing on it. It's basically falling over. And so I think that a reallocation of the community garden space could actually integrate the playground, or they could be integrated somehow to allow for some open space for the adolescent kids who are little, older teens to be able to play like, touch football or tag or, soccer or something. So I've been working on a preliminary design, just to kind of work out the space a little bit. I'm I do gardening and landscape design. So I also contacted a company based in Medway, Mass, called O'Brien's and Sons. They are playground contractors. They build and design playgrounds. An amazing company. They're a family-owned company. They've been around for, I think, 40 years. And they put playgrounds, and they use a really great a well-known brand called Landscape Structures, which a lot of the municipal town playgrounds use landscape structures. And they're very durable. They're expensive, but they last for 30 years, 40 years. In fact, the little playground at Interlochen is all landscape structures, and that stuff's been there since I was a kid. So I'm going to be, I'm 45. So it lasts for a long time. So it's an investment. And I put on the website, if you get a chance to go to the website, underneath the initiatives that the projects that we're hoping to accomplish, there's a couple of videos under PCA Pine Woods Playground Project 2023 Design Proposal. Those highlight two of these types of structures that I would love to see at Pine Woods, and I think everyone would love to see. They're modern, so contemporary shapes, and they kind of tend to go over and allow the kids to play up and into. And that would allow us to, in terms of space, to integrate the garden and the playground by sort of elevating some of the play structures. it's kind of it's going to be kind of a complicated design to integrate the two spaces. Also, one thing that I want to make sure in terms of the design is making it so that it's accessible to people, to children who are disabled, physically disabled. Landscape Structures has a structure specifically for disabled children. So that would make it more inclusive for children who are physically disabled. So that is something that I am keeping in my mind in terms of like looking at the different structures. But anyway, O'Brien's, I reached out to the gentleman. He actually came to Pinewoods 2 years ago and did a site assessment or a site visit. And he got to see the space and he measured it out. And he did submit a couple of designs, which I wasn't particularly psyched on. I think that the space could be utilized better. But he did come to Pinewoods. He drove all the way out here from Medway and he didn't get paid for it. So I'd love to keep working with him, or I'd love it if we could keep working with him and his company. And actually, O'Brien's is such a large company. They have a whole division for finding federal funds and private grant money, such as the Gates Foundation donates money to municipalities or affordable housing communities like ours. So there's some possible subsidization that could happen on that end by working with
O'Brien what?
O'Brien's and Sons.
And Sons?
O'Brien's and Sons, they're in Medway, Mass. And I believe the gentleman I spoke to, I did reach out to him last week. I didn't get a call back, so I'm not sure if he's actually still with the company because it's been a couple of years. It was Andrew Kimball. And so I'm hoping that I can.
Joanna, could you also say
Actually-
what the range of costs that he gave you?
So, I mean, for the design he gave me, which was actually much smaller than what I'm envisioning, because in terms of structures, right, we want to provide structures for all age groups. So, when my son's 6 now, when he was 2 and 3 and just learning how to walk, I would take him to the playground and he would, they have smaller structures for these little ones to climb over and kind of learn their mechanical balance and things like that developmentally. And so we would need a structure for the small kids that are at Pinewoods. And then as they get older, like my son's 6, loves monkey bars. It's like his biggest thing right now. We would need structures for that age group, and then maybe some structures for older kids. And actually, Landscape Structures has structures for the elderly, for people to learn to do balance work. They want to go outside and work on their balance and do balance exercises. They have stuff for that age group as well. So I would love to see a design that would address or allow, inclusivity for all of those groups, including the disabled people. So that means there's going to be more structures needed. So the design he gave was very small, and he had valued it at $150,000 roughly. And I can't tell you exactly. I have to go back and look at the design, but I could tell you that it definitely wasn't including all of those people that I was just mentioning. So we're looking at anywhere between 150 to possibly twice that for a really well-designed, integrated, inclusive design. And again, this is an investment and this would last 30, 40 years. And also, I want to mention that my vision for the playground and the community garden, especially the playground though, and if you take a look at the website and the two forms, the two structure forms that I'm really gravitating towards for the design, this would be like a source of pride for Pinewoods. In terms of affordable housing communities, what I envision for Pinewoods with the resources, if we had them, I really think Pinewoods could be upgraded to a source of pride for the town, not just for us to enjoy, but for the town. I think that, if we had these structures implemented, there'd be people, from all over Stockbridge bringing their children to play in them because they're so unique. There's nothing around, nothing in Berkshire County like these structures, and they would probably bring their kids just to enjoy it. And I think that would be wonderful to make Pinewoods a place that people from the area could come and enjoy. Like before I even moved to Pinewoods, I lived in Dalton with my son when he was 2. And we would, there was a play group from CHP that would meet at Pinewoods on Wednesdays. I would drive from Dalton to come all the way to Pinewoods to do this play group from CHP. It was just an opportunity for me as a parent, single parent, to meet other parents and just get out of the house and bring my little toddler, because there's not a lot of play groups that, for that age group. And I would drive to go to Pinewoods. So I think that visually, aesthetically, it would be it would just be like so modern and a huge modern upgrade. And I could see Pinewoods being the kind of community that affordable housing communities can aspire to, like not just in Berkshire County, but in the state. I think, there's a lot of initiatives that we can implement. Another one that I haven't mentioned yet is bus stop.
Just hold on that one for a second. Just in case Andrea has to go, because she's got a long drive, can we maybe move up 9C? I don't mind South, we can stay at the end of the meeting as long as we like to sort of do brainstorms. This isn't really on the agenda, and I think
It's a very important point. Joanna, I don't want to cut you short, but I want to make sure that if you could just make sure what other points you want us to, because we can look on the website, which you have a lot of this information. None of the things you've talked about have been on the list that we've considered. So you're introducing new ideas, which is terrific. It's going to take a little bit for us to figure out how this all works. Besides the playground, I think having looked at the website, you've got the bus stop, which to me seems like a really important point.
Yeah.
Because the bus stops there, the children are picked up for school. There's 25 children who live at Pinewoods. So it's our most important concentration, I think, of children in any one place.
That's great. We're going to be advocates for these things. It's a state road. So there's going to be, there's a lot of players involved in each one of these decisions. And what we can do is be cheerleaders like we were talking about before. But, I think.
Well, I think we can be.
We have some important votes we have to get before people to go. And I'm concerned because Andrew's got like an hour drive.
Right. So is there any other main point? Because Joanna, I think that we're happy to hear from you and Corey and others. I think the most effective way would be to funnel it through your community association. So if there are messages, we meet, we're happy to make sure you're happy to come. We're happy to have you come. Right now, we're kind of at a critical point, and Andrea runs the other affordable housing, Heaton Court, and she's got some really important issues. So I think we need to make sure we have enough time for her.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually pretty much done. I just wanted to raise the one issue I haven't heard today was the issue of trees. So we have a lot of trees, dead trees and fallen trees on the property that have damaged people's cars, tenants' cars, which a gentleman in his 80s had a tree fall on his car, and he went to Construct to try to get some of that money or have that resolved. And they basically were like, tough luck, you have to make a claim on your insurance. There's been conversations with Pinewoods about the trees. And they're basically like, well, if one falls on your house, you have to make a claim for your renter's insurance. So I think, so that's something that we can't afford at this time to get an assessment done, but.
Well, no, that has been included actually in the first level capital needs report. So the tree issue has been very clearly identified. And then for those of us who've driven through, you can obviously see that's a real problem.
All right.
So that one is on our radar screen.
Excellent.
But thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, sure.
And Corey, your comments are covered?
Yes, thank you very much. I feel heard. Thank you very much.
All right,
you,
terrific,
Corey.
good. I think we need to move on. We're jumping around on our agenda, but Andrea, we want to give you all the time you need because.
We also have to vote on what we're going to do with CBC. So,
Okay, do you want to?
no, I want to, let's ask Andrew what she wants to do.
Andrea, okay, can we just get let's conclude Pinewoods, because the only thing left on Pinewoods.
All right, well, I propose that we ask for 125, 150,000, something like that.
How about 150?
Yeah, I don't know what we'll get.
I think there's some general conversation about that whole area that needs to be discussed. I mean, this structural assessment you're talking about, it's structural safety and it's everything. It's.
All right.
Right.
We don't know, the report was written a year and a half ago almost, and they've addressed some of the issues. We don't know. We're going to get the information that we need, and the town folk, the town employees are on it. So.
Great.
I need a little clarity on where the 150 would go. I obviously have an emergency fund and all of that, but then there's also the studies for,
Both.
the
Right.
structural stuff, and how does this break down?
I'm not sure we want to be too specific. Do you, Patrick? I think.
I don't know.
Well, I just need my own head.
For your own head, okay. I think for
I'm not sure it's the right number either.
the only numbers that we have good information for is the structural study, for sure, is 20,000, phase one. And we're just using a plug number of 10,000 based on what Matt said from Berkshire Housing for the boiler inspection. It may not be that much, but I would say up to 30,000 would be allocated to consultant studies that are required. And the balance would be an emergency fund.
Okay.
And none of it would be dispersed without 5 votes of this board. So it's not like there's another firewall in terms of due diligence.
And the structural study, would that get at the steel and the pillars and all of that, or?
It would identify the problems in terms of the severities and would take it from the study that you have, this study right here.
Yeah.
Taking that identification and taking it to the next step.
Okay, all right.
Would that include them assessing the insulation on the floors, for the floors?
I don't think so. That we might get that, since you've identified that as a problem. The fact that there's no insulation is,
Like under those
Not desirable.
garages, the floor above that has no insulation or?
So in my unit, so it's on stilts, and there's maybe about a 6 or 7 foot drop where where the ground hits, and then there's the floor. I'm sure there's some insulation, there has to be, but there might not be enough is the problem, because say for example, my living room floor is 7 feet off the ground on these cement pillars, and then the whole house is on pillars. So yeah, it's about 7 feet off the ground, I'm guessing, and I'm sure there's some insulation, but that's probably where all the heat's going that people are complaining about. So
I think we could ask for that inspection as part of the structural.
that'd be
but-
great, thank you.
But I think the motion is to ask for 150,000 for studies and emergency fund for repairs as identified.
Oh, they're not identified. I think the plans are, the planning needs, I think, are the first round, the first step of planning is identifying that the 30. Obviously, the rest of it were, I think it would really be for, legit emergencies where we just, it's like the.
As identified by the studies or as emergencies are identified. Could you get that, Liz?
Well, that was back.
Emergencies known and unknown?
Yes, I mean, I don't think we should, if their need is 3 to 5 million, I don't know that we're going to have anywhere near enough in that fund to, to tackle what's addressed. I really think if a boiler fails and it's November and, they're desperate to get a new one, that's what that fund should be until we're going to need a long-term financing plan for Pinewoods, it's clear. And if Concert wants our help, great. And if they don't, they're going to have to come up with one because these problems aren't going to go away. So this is really just in the interim while we're taking a year or two to figure that out, because I think that's what it'll take. If a boiler blows up, we got to,
That was the advice that Eileen gave me. So are you,
I'm trying to compose something here.
this is our vote. All right.
Motion to apply to CPC for money.
Do you want
for
to,
assessment and emergency.
we're getting to you, Andrea.
All right.
All right, are you ready, Lauren?
Can I make a motion?
Oh, please.
I'm going to make a motion to apply to the CPC for money for the needs assessment and emergency fund for $150,000.
Second.
Pinewoods and Heaton Court.
No, this is.
Isn't the emergency?
This is Pinewoods.
All right, so the emergency funding doesn't cover Heaton then, it's just
No.
Okay.
Please, we have to get
one emergency at a time?
one emergency at a time. Okay.
Okay.
But the salient, the important piece of that is $150,000 is what we're going to apply for. Okay, and Patrick, you've seconded?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Joanna. Thank you,
Cool. So-
Cory, whoever's listening. Andrea, we're going to jump to you.
Hello.
Did you have your board?
So two things. When we attended the CPC meeting and it was suggested that we all just do our own applications. I am going to do my own, though I'm not going to include my wish list, I think, at this time. I think some of those things are not covered under CPC. And I don't know that I have any dire emergencies right at this moment, though the boilers keep messing with us on a day-to-day basis, different buildings. So I didn't know if that is what we were doing, or we were still trying to put it all together for the bonding, or if that was even still happening.
I think we have rescinded that vote, Andrea, because there's a lot more work for Pine Woods that needs to be done. But that doesn't mean that your needs need to be subservient to whatever happens at Pine Woods. But for what we would do, what I understand our role would be is certainly a letter of support for what you're requesting from CPC.
Perfect. I will request that then. My
What-
application is going to be.
Tell us
My
how much.
application is going to. It's going to be for $20,000 to continue the work on the siding, and I'm going to try to leverage some more money from DHCD. They've been giving me $2.50 on every dollar of CPC dollar.
Ah,
So that should give me enough to finish the project.
And are there any other projects with the same leverage that were on the wish list?
I'd have to go back and look at those.
Well, you don't need you don't need our permission or to go beyond the 20,000. I will just say that there's a little bit more available this year than in a normal year. So, just bear that in mind, because CPC really likes the idea that for a dollar that they put in, there's $2.50 somewhere else. That scores really highly. So just,
And if there are other projects that, I think that's a very modest ask from CPC.
Well, I've leveraged over the last 2 years about 35,000. They split it up over the last 2 years. So they've already committed like 67,529. So this is going to be another 20.
So 80,000.
Increments.
80,000 then total from CPC?
no.
Right. I've already been awarded the last 2 years.
Right, but
So
over
this
the
year
last,
it'll be. Go ahead.
sorry, you go ahead.
So I've already been awarded over the last 2 years and leveraged the funding through DHCD. So whatever that is, 100 and something. I know I've got about $200,000 total. So this should take me through the 20,000 and then the leverage, another 70,000. But I will go back and look at the other projects. I didn't think that all of them would qualify.
Okay. Andrew, would there, one idea that I was thinking of that, I don't know whether you think it would be helpful to you, or even if you think it would produce extra funds, but an investment we might be able to make to help you if you thought a consultant who would help you identify funds from the state or the federal sources to increase the money that's available to you. That's something to me that it would be very good use of our money. It would be very good way to leverage the money that we have.
That is something to think about. Our funding is a little different. I guess any money that we would be going after would just be for preservation at this point, unless we ever do expansion. And I think like you and I have spoken about, the Section 8 and the homeownership program. We've tossed that around a few times and got a couple of people that I'm speaking to about that. The consultant for that might be
Okay.
beneficial.
Well, could you just think of if there's any kind of support that we could give you that would leverage to allow you to get more funds for supporting the development, your development? It seems like that's a good way for us to use our money. But would you also mind just outlining quickly the mortgage? I know you're investigating and moving on that, but as I understand it, Section 8 funds, vouchers are currently, at least in our area, used for rental subsidies, but they also can be used to pay mortgages.
Yes, they can. The board would just have to adopt the program. And you can either have your mortgage subsidized, working with a bank that would, accept the payment for the subsidy, or it can be used for down payment. And I think the down payment assistance is an average of, or it is a collection of what we would pay over a course of 1 year. So you would take the calculation, figure out how much you would be subsidizing times 12, and that could go towards a down payment. So yes, it doesn't seem too hard. It just seems to be that there might be a lot of legwork involved in getting banks on board.
Well, perhaps that would be a really good use of our hiring someone to help you get that set up.
Oh, but also there's
I
a question
agree.
of, yeah, okay.
Can I just say something about that really quick? That was an idea that I pitched to you guys. I've been doing a lot of research into that. And I just wanted, from a tenant perspective, I want it to just be understood that, first of all, there are other funds from, what is it called? Sorry, I'm blanking on it. But there are federal funds already for down payment assistance, but those are separate programs. So for example, if I were to use I have a Section 8 voucher. If I'm going to use my Section 8 voucher to apply towards a mortgage, I would want to have a choice. I would like to have a choice as a tenant to either apply it for down payment or towards my mortgage. I wouldn't want it to, just be one singular thing, because there are other outlets to get down payment assistance, whether it's through banks or other federal programs. Also,
And Joanne, I'm going to interrupt you because that's on our agenda to actually speak tonight about our trust setting up in collaboration with the local banks, a down payment assistance program.
oh, that's wonderful. That's music to my ears. Yes, that's great. So
That's different than Section 8
Yes.
going toward that, because obviously, we have, Andrea, how many South County Section 8 vouchers are there?
I have 45 now.
All right, so,
Plus,
let's just be
I
aware
have
that those,
54 plus the foster program.
all right, so there's
54
54 in the whole region, and you start taking those and using them for down payment, those are literally apartments that aren't getting paid for, for people who need to rent. So, I think that.
No, that's, you can use it for either or, and it would be what the board adopts, whether we're going to go for, if
Yeah.
we do it, a mortgage subsidy for 15 years or a down payment.
Okay.
Well, can't you do both, Andrea? Can't they be either? Can't they choose? You don't have to pick
I
one
have
of
to
the
look into it, but it's more about how we set it up, I think. We can offer it as a choice. Or not, we can choose just down payment assistance.
Okay.
Right. So that said, yes, it's a choice from the housing authority level. I would like for them to make a choice for the tenants. Also, a lot of housing authorities tend to implement, programs requiring the tenants to, say, for example, have a 5-year plan where, they, in order to get or to use the subsidy or towards a mortgage, for example, they have to be part of this 5-year plan program where they have to meet certain goals that are preset by the housing authority. The problem with those types of things is there's people with mental health issues, nonverbal or non-physical disabilities, things that that make it difficult for them to reach certain goals that are set by preset by housing authorities. So I just want to mention that when when Andrea gets to the point where she's establishing the sort of bylaws of the program, that you guys, will hopefully discuss with her about how, how easy is it going to be for tenants to participate in the program?
I'm going to cut you off. I apologize, but we're running against the wall, and it's to be continued.
Something to think about, yeah, anyway.
But thank you. You certainly, we maybe need you as our assistant on this group here. Moving right on. Andrea, is there anything else you want us to know?
No, thank you. Nope, I'm all set.
Okay, well, we will be very happy to you'll be working with Don, and we'll be very happy to make sure a letter goes in support of what you want to do. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Jim, did you want to add anything? We can't hear you. Jim, you have to push the microphone.
That's what I'm trying to do.
There you go.
Okay.
No, I really don't have anything to add. I certainly learned a lot. A lot of this is kind of a little bit over my head. It's all new to me. So I'm depending on Andrea for a lot of information, and, we're going to go forth with whatever makes the most sense for us. And I think the things that I'm hearing about Pine Woods, it seems like you're starting to formulate something. It's going to take a while, but I think it'll ultimately end up being good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
very,
Jim.
very much. All right, moving on.
What number are we
Number
I
8.
think we should table 8 for the next meeting.
Yes.
I think, it's.
Yes, I have some information, but I think Michaela, you had volunteered, if not requested.
Yes, yeah, but
To be in
actually,
charge.
if we table it, that would be nice because then it'll give me a little more time to work.
Okay,
Talk to-
so we'll talk about the mortgage
Great.
assistant program, and I have some information I'll give you.
Great.
All right. Jan.
Okay, I'll be very quick. So at our last meeting, we talked about doing either a housing needs assessment or a housing production plan. The sense that I got from the last meeting was a general preference to go with the whole housing production plan and move forward with that. Michaela and I have been pursuing talking with a couple of other towns, Lenox, Lee, Williamstown, and I spoke with Brewster out on the Cape. And I spoke with Brewster in part because they did an update to their housing production plan a year ago. They sent me the request for quotation qualifications, which was quite good. It came from their assistant town administrator, who's also the procurement officer. And what I've done in the document I gave to each of you and I sent on the website, the electronic version, was to basically take their proposal, modify it for Stockbridge. And so this would be a draft. I know you haven't had time to read it, but I would ask you if you would read it over the next couple of days and send any corrections.
Word is spelled wrong. Statute is spelled as statue.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a.
I'll see if I can find that in here. And then send us comments. And what we'll do between now and the next meeting is make any of those modifications in hopes that we can bring this back to the next meeting. Michael Canales also wanted to run this proposal through the procurement expert or lawyer or whoever for the town. Would just have them look at it before we move forward. The objective would be to try to have, you can see on the date here, it's the 15th which is 2 days after our next meeting, to issue it on that date and then ask for a response back from the consultants on March 1st. That sounds short, but Brewster did theirs in about the same amount of time over the Christmas break. Wow. So I think, and there would be basically 3 consultants who are the 3, Patrick, that the housing partnership suggested, and Brewster kind of confirmed that those are the ones that do most of the housing production plans in Massachusetts. So we would send it out to that group. Now, the only thing in here that, and you'll see I've listed as it would be the trust that is the contracting party, not the town. And that the responses would come back to Michaela and myself through email, and also a copy probably to Michael Canales in hard copy as well as email. And one thing that isn't really clarified in here is, as you know, in a housing production plan, there's quite a bit of interaction with the public and trying to get comments from both different boards, but also of the public. And so we need a process, and we need someone who is well-informed with all of the local towns folks to make sure that we are reaching out to everyone we should be reaching out to get comments in those public meetings. So I think Michaela is saying she would be happy to organize some of that, but it might be good for another member of this group who has a very strong working knowledge of the town to help to work with Michaela.
Yeah, I don't know anybody. Many of us do, yes.
That's great. Okay.
I think what on page one of the Boston Globe today, there was an article about tomorrow's deadline, which is that Governor Healy is requiring 175 towns that are below the 10% threshold to submit plans on how they're going to get to this 10% threshold by tomorrow. Plan of how they're going to develop a plan. So we may quickly be pushed to the middle or back of the line on this one. I just want to set expectations on it, because literally there's going to be 175 towns reaching out to these consultants saying, we need a housing production plan. And some of them actually, are far, much further behind than where we are. And that deadline is tomorrow at noon. So just kind of point out to folks that, this might take us a year or two, because everybody's going to have to do one.
Ooh. We might have to rethink if that's what you get, if you get no response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we may just have to, you're right. Yep. Just give me a heads up.
175.
She's requiring 175 municipalities, Massachusetts, only 352. She's requiring half of them to give her their plan to get up to the 10%.
By what date?
I don't know. I skimmed the article. It's like,
Oh, cute. I will.
Okay.
I can send it to you.
Better get this proposal in quick.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe they'll think, I can shoehorn this one in before, Brewster contacts me, or whatever, next to Brewster, Gloucester, I don't know.
Well, thank you, Patrick, for that happy piece of information. Okay. All right.
Maybe just send it in as is.
Jan and Michaela have done a lot of work on it.
I think we should authorize you to just collect the comments and send it out, because, we don't need another wait a month on this, because it could be that,
Okay, if you are all authorizing me to do that, I'll say comments back to Michaela and me. Let's say this is Monday by the end of the week. And then we're going to go.
Statute. That's
Do we
my.
need a vote on that? Do you want to vote? Or you'll authorize?
Everybody opposed to it?
You're duly authorized.
Okay.
You are empowered.
All right.
All right. Mark, you are empowered.
Well, maybe not, but I have an assignment anyway. All right, so I have spoken with Mary Beth Mitz, who was here at our last meeting.
Isn't she great?
It's terrific, from the Lennox Affordable Housing Trust. She has booked and reserved the auditorium at Lennox Town Hall.
For the date.
Thursday, March 16th, from 9 to 2. And I have sent out invitations to the Affordable Housing Trusts in Great Barrington, Lennox, Williamstown, and I just got the contact information for Pittsfield, so we'll get that out tomorrow. And what I basically said in my letter was, there's a chance for people that are doing this kind of work to get together, share ideas, want a report from each of the trusts on what they've done. Pittsfield just hasn't been around that long, so I don't know what their history is, but we're all at various different stages, but we might be able to get some insights on strategies for proceeding. And to make contacts, so that the housing trust people all know each other and can get on the phone and we got this problem, we got this idea, have you run into this? So just to get some collaboration going. I have invited Lieutenant Governor Driscoll to come. Probably take a couple of weeks before I hear back from them, but housing is a big initiative from the Healy administration. Now, maybe there'll be so many people online for that money, it might be getting harder to get, but in any case, it's a big priority for her. And Governor Driscoll, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll's been quoted in some of the articles that I've seen. So she'd be a good person to talk to about what their plans are, what funds might be available, how we might proceed to take advantage of their priority on Beacon Hill. Also, we'll have somebody, I think, from the Mass Housing Partnership and maybe some other experts. We've got to kind of work out the speakers thing.
I think Eileen Peltier from
All right.
Berkshire Housing, you could consider.
Perfect. Okay,
She's
good.
really terrific.
All right. And we will, I think we said we might be able to spring for some sandwiches and some.
Is anybody willing to? Do we all support that our trust supplies the lunch?
I don't know that we can legally, as long as it's legal, I don't care, but just make sure that that's something that we can do, because there's rules. I don't know what they are.
Rules about providing food at meetings?
I have no idea.
You run into that?
But you gotta just ask, you gotta ask the question to.
I think it's one of those ask for forgiveness.
If not, I will, if, we're not doing that. Yeah. And I'll borrow $20.
World.
Oh, $50.
Anyway,
All right.
thank you for bringing that up.
We'll make an inquiry about the beverages and food. No alcohol anyway, I can say that. Too bad, right? Bring your own.
And Lowe's makes great sandwiches. They're $9 or $8.
It's true.
Don't let that get out there.
I know. I'm just saying, it's gonna be a Langs Town Hall. We can all walk over and get some sandwiches from Bernie and Isabel.
All right.
How many people are we expecting?
Well, my letter said that all the members of all the boards are invited and that we hope at least one representative from each will attend.
When's their RSVP?
I just said, get back to me. I'll bug them if I don't hear something. Let's see. So, yeah, so it could be, it could be 10 people, it could be 25 people,
Right.
I don't know.
We're just thinking
So we'll
about
have
lunch.
to, I don't think about lunch. I said, we'd get a head count closer to the event, but at least I hope to hear back from each of these chairs and then go from there to try to fill out the attendees and finalize our speakers and work on an agenda. And
I would just suggest if you're trying to get the lieutenant governor, if she can't do the date you've picked, I think we could try to be flexible on the date to get her to come.
yeah, it may depend. I mean, trying to coordinate schedules with this many people, and if you start asking everybody, could you do this date or that date? It's like, I would say that if she can't, and she would probably have to put together a Western Mass Day or something around
That's
this.
Smitty or Representative, or Senator Mark,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Healy administration would get somebody for us who's a key person in the housing area if we can't get a big name and
I know
title.
her campaign manager. He's from anywhere, so I could ask.
Healy's campaign manager? Okay. So they have an online form that you go to at the state website and you make your request for the governor or lieutenant governor and fill everything out. So that's what I've done. So we'll see what I hear, but I'm pretty sure that we'd be able to get somebody of some stature to do it. So that's where that stands. Maybe at our next meeting, we could flesh it out a little further.
Okay. We won't have
I'll work.
quite as heavy agenda.
Yeah, I might work out a kind of a proposed agenda for that day.
Mark, that sounds fantastic, by the way. Thank you.
That'd be great if we can do it.
Great work.
Yeah, This is a very hardworking group of people. Thank you. Thank you very much. Don, I guess you've,
Within 5-minute stretches though, 5-hour meeting.
done.
That, guys.
No,
That's all right.
We
No,
always.
we learned a lot today.
No, I'm talking about the meeting in March, not your, no, that doesn't. No, he said 9 to 2, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think we're up to date on my
9
stuff.
to 2, yeah, so 5-hour
With a
meeting. So
lunch.
we got like,
Do you have anything else you want to add?
I do not.
Oh, I was talking about, yeah, no. I was, he's, it's an all day thing.
Okay, don't disband yet. We're almost done. Eileen, anyone else have for our next meeting, which is February 13? Is that on everybody's calendar? The room's reserved. We have a problem with February 27. The room's not available.
I will not be here for that meeting.
Which room?
The 13th, you won't.
We have 2 rooms, you know.
I know, both of them are taken. Cababusa something bog.
Yeah.
Pusa.
Cababusa bog.
That's like that's where it's the only calcareous fen in Massachusetts, and it's right here in Stockbridge.
Have you ever been up to the Marion
Go figure.
Father's
I
place
have.
up there?
I have many
Well, you can look out
The
in the parking lot. There's a big bog out there.
All right, well, that bog is having a meeting
Yeah.
here, and so we need to pick a second.
Yeah, but that's not calcareous.
All
Sorry.
right, let's get this done. We can't meet on February 27th.
March 6th.
March 6th, can everybody come, anybody have a problem on March 6th?
I don't know.
February,
Jan,
okay, so what time is the February 13th?
4 o'clock was our new meeting date, time. Is that working out well for people to come early?
Yeah, sure. All right, so that's,
All right,
So the next meeting is going to be February 13th, and then after that, it
it's
is
March 6th.
March 6th.
Okay, but you can't come on the 13th, right?
That's correct.
All right, so we will be missing Don, unfortunately. But we do have the room, and that's all set. And Eileen, as a speaker,
oh, that's April,
Right, so she would,
March 6th.
she would be the
who
13th.
we would want also at our,
So CPC is a voting meeting on March 6th, so I mean, I don't need to be here, but I will not be at that.
What time is their meeting?
It's the backup voting meeting, and so, you know, we may not need it, but that's also at 4 PM on March 6th.
Oh, that means they have the room.
Well, it's 2 rooms, but yeah, okay.
So if, I'll have to check.
It's only the backup meeting, but last year we needed it because there were so many applications. We needed to have 2 meetings for Bedamol.
Okay. If I can't get a second, I'll have to just circulate and ask for other dates
Okay.
from you.
Yep.
Anything else? Anybody want to say? Are we exhausted? I didn't finish this, but Patrick, this is yet another idea. Because Kate was saying that we already have a bylaw which allows people to build. But there's some are supposed to be affordable, and we don't think that's probably being, because they don't have any incentive to have it be affordable. This is a very interesting idea, and most interestingly, it's proposed by a select person at Great Barrington, who happens to be the development director at Construct.
Right.
Yeah, Lee Davis.
And she is suggesting that if you allow your ADU to be rented year-round, it has to be year-round, at an affordable rate, you get a tax deduction, your town taxes.
And that's a home rule petition, which means it has to go pass by the state senate, the state house, and then signed by the governor. Not to say we can do all that, but that's like a 2-year process. And my suggestion is we watch Great Barrington on that one. And if they actually go through all this and do it, then maybe we go in on them and say, oh, let's Stockbridge participate. But that's like a huge effort to.
What it means is other people in the town will have to subsidize the tax, because we still need the same amount of money. So it just means if we give a break to people who do affordable,
Right.
then other people who don't will have to pay higher taxes. But
Ultimately.
I mean, I could make a joke about that one, but I won't.
all right.
I'm so close to making it.
Is there anything else?
So all you have on the meeting for next time is ask Eileen Peltier to speak. And Mark will follow up about the meeting. You can send me the rest.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the mortgage.
Okay.
We got the mortgage.
Yep. And I have some updates from Tom Sheldon in Williamstown. I'm playing phone tag with Chris Britton and Lee, but Tom, they did an assessment in Williamstown, not a full housing production plan, but he was helpful, and I have some detail. It's not, we can
For you, I have a conversation with Fred Clark, who's head of the Great Barrington, about their
Great.
mortgage down payment
Okay.
plan. And also from, I talked to Jackie McNish at Adams Bank today, and I have the information on how Lennox, or how they do it. And there's a really interesting, yet another program, which is a Federal Home Loan Bank Board of New England, gives each bank 10 $25,000 grants to give out for low-income or affordable housing purchases down payment.
Right.
So someone, if we had a 15,000 one, you could get as much as $40,000.
You can put three together.
Great. And you can put them both together, and the banks actually administer it once we set it up. So it seems to me this is a very valuable
Worthwhile.
program that we should implement. The biggest issue is do we get paid back? Williamstown doesn't get paid back if people live there 5 years. Great Barrington makes you pay it back no matter what, all 100%. And I forget what Lennox does, but anyway, there's a whole different approaches in these different towns. It seems amazing to me that there isn't kind of a unified approach to it, but when you get into it, you'll see there's a lot of choices as to how we structure it.
Okay. I'll connect with you.
Having said that, and given the time, do I have?
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Patrick's like, all right, he's out of here. Thank you all.
Thank you.